Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a place where the air feels too heavy, where the shadows don't quite match the trees casting them. You're standing at the edge of an orchard, split down the middle like a cracked skull, one side lush with apples, the other a tangle of gnarled, barren limbs. The right side, the dead side, hasn't been touched in decades. Locals avoid it, their eyes darting away when you ask why. You probably won't survive this, but let's see how far you get. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The gravel crunches under your boots as you step past the orchard's boundary, where a sagging wooden fence separates the living from the forsaken. The left side hums with life bees drone, leaves rustle, and the sweet rot of fallen apples perfumes the air. But the right side? Silent? The kind of quiet that presses against your eardrums. The trees here are skeletal, their bark peeling like old skin, and the ground is dusted with frost despite the autumn warmth. Your breath clouds in front of you, each exhale lingering too long, as if the air is reluctant to let you go. You adjust the straps of your backpack, the weight of your flashlight and water bottle grounding you. The path ahead is overgrown, nettles snagging at your jeans. You're not sure why you're here. Maybe it's the thrill of the unknown. Or maybe it's the stories whispered in the nearby town. They say no one harvests the right side because those who try don't come back. A mainstream horror fact for you? Many cultures believe orchards can be liminal spaces, thresholds where the veil between worlds thins. This one feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for you to make a mistake. Your flashlight beam dances across the trunks, catching knots that look too much like eyes. You chuckle to yourself, calm down, it's just pareidolia, your brain making faces where there aren't any. Still, the hairs on your neck prickle. You notice a quirky detail. A single crabapple, shriveled and gray, hangs from a low branch. In these parts, folks say crabapples ward off evil, but this one looks like it's been drained of life. You step closer and the frost beneath your boots cracks like thin glass. The sound echoes, too loud for this muffled place. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the orchard's curse began with a failed harvest or something darker, a deal gone wrong under these very trees. You shake off the thought and keep moving, the path curving deeper into the right side. The air grows colder, your fingers tingling as you grip the flashlight. You hear it, then a whisper, faint and formless, like leaves skittering across stone. It's not words, not yet, but it carries a weight, a presence. You freeze, sweeping the light around. Nothing but trees, their branches clawing at the starless sky. You take another step, and the ground shifts slightly, softer here, like it's been disturbed. Your beam catches something, a patch of earth darker than the rest, roughly the size of a man. You kneel, your gloved hand brushing away frost. The soil is loose, almost inviting. Your fingers graze something hard, smooth. Stone. No, it's too regular, too carved. You pull back, heart thudding. Whatever it is, it's not yours to uncover. Not yet. The whispers grow, a chorus now, weaving through the trees. They're still wordless, but they feel personal, like they know your name. You stand, wiping your hands on your jacket, and force a laugh. Okay, orchard, you're creepy, I'll give you that, you mutter, your voice swallowed by the silence. Another joke to keep you sane. If this place had a Yelp review, it'd be 1 star for ambience, 5 for existential dread. You glance back, but the fence is gone, lost in the dark. There's only forward now, deeper into the right side. The trees seem to lean closer, their branches interlocking overhead like a cage. Your flashlight flickers, just for a second, and in that brief darkness, you swear you see movement, shadow darting between trunks. You blink, and it's gone. It's probably just your imagination, right? But your pulse doesn't believe you. You keep walking, the frost crunching, the whispers trailing you like a predator. This orchard isn't just abandoned. It's waiting. The frost beneath your boots grows thicker, each step a brittle snap that echoes through the barren orchard. The whispers linger, faint but persistent, curling around you like smoke. You press forward, the skeletal trees closing in, their branches scraping the edges of your vision. The air is colder now, sharp in your lungs, and your flashlight beam wavers as if struggling against the dark. You're deeper into the right side, where the ground feels less like earth and more like something alive, shifting under your weight. Ahead, a rusted iron gate looms, half swallowed by vines. It's the kind of gate that doesn't belong in an orchard, ornate, Gothic, better suited to a cemetery than a field. Its bars are twisted, some bent outward as if something forced its way through. A sign hangs crookedly, its paint flaked to near illegibility. You tilt your flashlight, and the words come into focus. Keep out. No harvest. The letters are uneven, scratched into the metal rather than painted. And the period after out is deep, like it was stabbed into place. A mainstream horror fact. Warning signs in folklore often mark boundaries between the safe and the profane, thresholds you cross at your peril. This one feels like it's daring you to ignore it. You step closer, the gate creaking, though there's no breeze. The vines writhe slightly your imagination, surely, but their thorns glint like tiny teeth. You notice a quirky regional detail. A small pile of river rocks sits at the gate space, stacked in a way that feels deliberate, like the offerings left at Cajun roadside shrines. Around here, folks believe stacking stones can appease restless spirits. But these look untouched, their surfaces slick with frost. You reach out, then stop. Touching them feels like signing a contract you don't understand. There's a debate among locals. Some say the gate was built to keep people out. Others swear it was meant to keep something in. The townsfolk avoid this question, their voices dropping when it's raised at the diner. Shake off the thought and grip the gate's bars. They're ice cold, even through your gloves, and the metal hums faintly, a vibration that travels up your arms. You pull your hands back, heart thudding. The whispers sharpen, no longer formless, their syllables now, fragmented, like a language you almost recognize. You sweep the flashlight around, but the trees are still there, not staring like unblinking eyes. You laugh, a nervous bark. What? No welcome mat? You mutter, trying to shake the unease. Another joke to keep you grounded. If this gate had a realtor, they'd call it rustic with character, needs minor exorcism. But the humor doesn't stick. The gate feels alive, its presence heavy, like it's judging your next move. You notice a gap where the bars have warped, wide enough to slip through. The path beyond is narrower, the frost thicker, and the trees lean closer, their branches forming a tunnel of claws. You hesitate, your breath clouding in the air. The gate's warning is clear, but turning back means facing the dark you've already crossed. And the whispers seem to come from behind you now, urging you forward. Slide through the gap, the vines snagging your jacket like fingers. The gate groans as you pass, a low, mournful sound that lingers too long. On the other side, the air is heavier, pressing against your chest. Your flashlight flickers again, its beam weaker, as if the orchard is draining it. The path stretches ahead, swallowed by shadows. You take a step, then another, the frost crunching louder now, like bones underfoot. Something glints in the distance, a reflection, maybe, or a trick of the light. You squint, but it's gone. The whispers grow, weaving through the trees, and for a moment, you swear one of them says your name. You spin, flashlight slashing the dark, but there's nothing. It's just the gate behind you, its sign glinting like a smirk. You're past the point of no return, and the orchard knows it. The frost crunches louder now, each step a sharp crack that feels like it's announcing your presence to the orchard. The rusted gate is a fading shadow behind you, its warning swallowed by the dark. The trees on this side are denser, their gnarled branches interlocking like a ribcage, forcing you to duck and weave. The air is colder, biting at your exposed skin, and the whispers have settled into a low hum, constant but indistinct, like a radio tuned to static. Your flashlight beam is feeble, barely piercing the gloom, and the path ahead is little more than a suggestion, a trail of trampled weeds and frost. You pause to catch your breath, and that's when you see them footprints pressed into the frost. They're fresh, too clear to be old, each one a perfect outline of a bare foot, toes splayed unnaturally wide. They lead deeper into the orchard, away from the gate, and they're wrong. No one walks barefoot in this cold, not here, where the ground feels like it's sucking the warmth from your souls. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, unnatural footprints often signal a presence that's neither human nor beast, a marker of something that doesn't belong. These prints feel like a lure, a path you're meant to follow. You kneel, your gloved fingers hovering over the nearest print. The frost around it is undisturbed, as if the foot appeared without weight. You notice a quirky regional detail, a single black feather, caught in a nearby bramble, its edges frayed like it was torn from something alive. Around here, folks say black feathers are omens, dropped by spirits passing through. You don't touch it, but its presence makes your skin crawl. The whispers pulse, sharper now, and you swear they're mimicking your breathing. There's a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the footprints found in the orchard belong to a lost soul or something that mimics the living to draw them in. You stand, wiping your hands on your jeans, and force a laugh. Great, I'm following the Pied Piper's evil cousin, you mutter, your voice thin in the heavy air. Another joke to keep your nerve. If this was a hiking trail, the brochure would mention scenic views and mild hauntings. But the humor feels forced, like shouting into a void. You follow the prints, not because you want to, but because the path behind you feels less safe. The shadows, they're thicker, as if the orchard is hurting you. The footprints are consistent, each one spaced evenly. No sign of hurry or hesitation. Your boots dwarf them, but the frost beneath your steps melts unevenly, leaving smears where theirs are pristine. You try to focus on the physical your heartbeat, the weight of your backpack butt. The orchard's silence is oppressive, broken only by the crunch of frost and the hum of whispers. Something glints ahead, a metallic flash in your flashlight's dying beam. You squint, picking up your pace. The prints veer slightly, leading to a low branch where a small object dangles, swaying though the air is still. It's a key, old and tarnished, tied to the branch with a strip of cloth that looks like it was torn from something larger. The key's surface is etched with faint lines, almost like letters, but they're too worn to read. You reach for it, then stop. Taking it feels like accepting an invitation. The whispers spike, a sudden chorus that makes you flinch. They're not words, not yet, but they carry intent. A warning or a welcome you can't tell. You step back, leaving the key, and the footprints continue, leading deeper into the dark. Your flashlight flickers, and for a split second, the prints glow faintly, as if lit from below. You blink, and they're normal again, just frost and shadow. Okay, that's my cardio for the day, you whisper, half joking, but your hands are shaking. The orchard is watching, and the footprints are its map, guiding you where it wants you to go. The footprints stretch ahead, their bare outlines glowing faintly in the frost before fading to shadow. You keep moving, following their path, because turning back feels like surrender to the orchard's weight. The trees are tighter here, their branches a lattice that blocks the sky, leaving only slivers of starless dark. Your flashlight is a weak pulse, its beam catching on bark that looks too smooth, too pale, like flesh stretched over bone. The whispers have softened, but they're still there, a low drone that hums in your teeth. The air is so cold it stings, and each breath tastes of damp earth and something sharper, like rust. The trees around you are silent, unnaturally so. No wind stirs their branches, no leaves fall because there are no leaves, just barren limbs that seem to lean closer when you're not looking. You pause, your boot hovering over a footprint, and notice the absence of sound. No birds, no insects, not even the creak of wood. It's as if the orchard has swallowed every noise except your own. A mainstream horror fact. In many folktales, silence is a harbinger, a sign that the natural world has retreated from something profane. This silence feels like a predator holding its breath. You sweep your flashlight across the trunks, their knots staring back like closed eyes. One tree, thicker than the rest, has a gash in its bark, oozing a dark sap that smells of copper. You notice a quirky regional detail. A small braid of twine is tied around a low branch, its ends frayed and stained. And in these parts, folks tie such braids to mark safe paths through haunted places. But this one looks abandoned, its knots unraveling. You don't touch it, but its presence makes the silence heavier, like a warning left too late. There's a debate among locals. Some swear the trees on the right side stopped bearing fruit after a blood moon, while others claim they're alive in a way trees shouldn't be. Shh. You shake your head, trying to focus. What? No squirrels to liven things up? You mutter, forcing a laugh. Another joke to steady your nerves. If these trees had a personality, they'd be the strong, silent type with a side of menace. But the humor falls flat, swallowed by the quiet. You step forward, and the ground shifts slightly, softer here, like it's breathing. The footprints veer toward a clearing where the trees part just enough to form a rough circle. In the center, the frost is undisturbed, but the air feels different, turgid, like the moment before a storm. Your flashlight catches something in the clearing's heart, a single branch. Broken and dangling, its end sharpened to a point. It sways, though the air is still, and for a moment you swear it's pointing at you. The whispers flare, a sudden hiss that makes you flinch. They're closer now, coming from the trees themselves, their branches trembling as if straining to speak. You spin, flashlight slashing the dark, but the trunks are still, their knots unblinking. Your heart pounds, and you take a step back, nearly tripping over a root that wasn't there a moment ago. Okay, trees, let's not get personal, you whisper half-joking, but your voice shakes. The footprints continue beyond the clearing, leading deeper, and you follow because standing still feels like inviting the silence to close in. The trees seem to watch, their branches curling like fingers. Your flashlight flickers again, and in its brief stutter, catch a glimpse of movement to shadow, tall and thin, slipping behind a trunk. You freeze, beam trained on the spot, but there's nothing, just bark and frost. The whispers pulse, and for a split second, they form a word your name, clear as a bell. You stumble forward, following the footprints, because the orchard's silence is no longer empty. It's full of eyes. The footprints guide you deeper, their bare outlines stark against the frost, leading you past the silent clearing where the trees seem to breathe. The orchard's grip tightens, its branches knitting a canopy so dense no sky remains, only a void above. Your flashlight is a dying ember, its beam barely cutting the gloom, and the cold seeps through your jacket, numbing your fingers. The whispers are no longer a hum, they're a chorus rising and falling like a tide, and they know your name. Each syllable brushes your ear, soft as a lover's breath, sharp as a blade. A sudden breeze stirs, the first movement in this lifeless place. It rustles the barren branches, their tips scraping like nails on stone, and carries the whispers closer, wrapping them around you. The wind smells of damp soil and something sour, like fruit left to rot. It tugs at your hair, your clothes, urging you to follow the footprints deeper. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, unnatural winds often herald the presence of spirits, carrying their voices across the veil. This breeze feels personal, like it's been waiting for you to listen. You steady yourself, gripping the flashlight as its light sputters. Footprints veer slightly, leading to a gnarled tree with a hollow at its base, its roots sprawling like veins. Something glints inside the hollow, small glass bottles stoppered with wax, half buried in frost. You notice a quirky regional detail. The bottle's neck is tied with red thread, a local custom to trap malevolent energies. Round here folks say such bottles hold curses, meant to be left undisturbed. You crouch, tempted to dig it out, but the wind picks up, howling now, and the whispers sharpen into a plea. Leave it. There's a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the wind's in the orchard. Carry lost souls or something older, something that mimics voices to lure the living. You stand, brushing frost from your gloves, and force a laugh. What? No weather forecast for haunted breezes? You mutter, your voice swallowed by the gale. Another joke to keep your nerve. If this wind had a playlist, it'd be all minor chords and creepy whispers. But the humor feels thin, like shouting into a storm. The footprints continue and you follow, the wind pushing at your back, almost guiding you. The trees sway, their branches creaking in a rhythm that matches the whispers, a slow, deliberate chant. Your flashlight catches a flicker of movement, a shadow, low and quick, darting between trunks. You spin, beams slashing the dark, but it's gone. The wind howls louder, and the whispers form words, fragmented but clear. You belong. Here, your heart lurches, and you stumble over a root, catching yourself against a tree. Its bark is warm, impossibly so, and pulses faintly under your palm. You jerk back, flashlight trembling. The footprints lead to a narrow gap between two trees, their branches tangled like a gate. The wind surges, carrying a scent of decay, and the whispers grow frantic, overlapping. A dozen voices vying for your attention. You hesitate, but the breeze is relentless, nudging you toward the gap. "Okay, wind, you're a pushy tour guide," you whisper, half joking, but your throat is tight. You step through, and the wind dies instantly, leaving a silence so thick it presses against your chest. The footprints are fainter now, almost swallowed by frost, but they stretch ahead, into a part of the orchard where the trees are twisted, their trunks bent as if bowing to something unseen. The whispers linger, softer but closer, and your name echoes again, a siren's call, woven into the dark. You're not alone, and the orchard knows exactly who you are. The wind's sudden absence leaves the orchard in a hush, the whispers retreating to a faint murmur like distant water. The footprints you followed are barely visible now, their edges blurred by frost that seems to shift when you're not looking. The trees here are warped, their trunks curving inward as if guarding a secret, their branches clawing at the air. Your flashlight is a frail glow, its beam catching on bark that glistens with a sheen too much like sweat. The cold is deeper, sinking into your bones, and each step feels like a commitment to something you can't undo. You spot it hanging from a low branch ahead a decayed charm, swaying though the air is still. It's a crude thing, a bundle of twine and bone fragments tied with a strip of faded cloth, its edges blackened as if burned. The charm hums faintly, a vibration you feel in your chest, and the frost around the branch is melted, forming a dark, wet circle in the dirt. A mainstream horror fact. In many traditions, charms like this are used to bind spirits or seal forbidden rituals, their power tied to the materials they're made from. This one feels alive, its presence a warning you can't ignore. You step closer, your boots sinking into the softened earth. The charm's bones are small, too delicate for an animal, and the cloth is embroidered with a single word, frayed but legible: stay. You notice a quirky, regional detail. A sprig of dried rosemary is tucked into the twine, a local custom to ward off restless dead. Around here, folks say rosemary keeps spirits at bay, but this sprig is brittle, its needles crumbling at your glance. You reach out, then stop, your fingers hovering. The whispers flare, a sharp hiss that makes you flinch, and the charm sways faster as if agitated. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the orchard. You pull your hand back, heart thudding, and force a laugh. What, no gift shop for cursed souvenirs. But the humor doesn't ease the weight in your chest. The footprints veer away from the charm, leading deeper into the orchard, where the trees grow denser, their trunks so close you'll have to sidle through. Its bones clatter softly, though there's no breeze, and the whispers pulse, forming fragments. Don't touch. You turn away, following the prints. But the charm's hum follows you, a low drone that syncs with your pulse. You spin, flashlight slashing the dark, but the trees are still, their knots unblinking. The charm's hum spikes, and for a moment you swear the branch it hangs from bends toward you. The footprints are clearer again, leading to a narrow gap between two trees, their bark etched with faint scratches that look too much like claw marks. You squeeze through the gap, the bark scraping your jacket, and the charm's hum fades, placed by the whispers, now a steady chant. The orchard feels tighter, its air thicker, and the footprints stretch ahead, guiding you towards something the charm was meant to guard. You're not just walking now, you're being led, and the orchard is closing the door behind you. The charm's hum lingers in your ears, a fading echo as you press deeper into the orchard, the footprints guiding you through the claustrophobic tangle of trees. The air is heavier now, thick with the scent of wet earth and decay, and the frost underfoot has given way to soft, yielding soil that sucks at your boots. The trees are gnarled, their trunks twisting like spines, their branches a net that snags at your hair. Your flashlight is a feeble pulse, its beam barely illuminating the path. And the whispers have settled into a rhythmic chant, low and insistent, weaving your name into their cadence. The footprints stop abruptly at a patch of ground darker than the rest, a rough oval where the soil is loose, almost churned. You kneel, your knees sinking slightly, and sweep your flashlight across the surface. The dirt is speckled with frost, but it's disturbed, as if someone or something dug here recently. Your gloved fingers brush the soil, and it's warm, unnaturally so, like skin under a fever. You dig just a little and unearth a bone fragment, small and smooth, etched with symbols that twist like veins. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, buried bones often anchor curses, tying restless spirits to a place. This fragment feels like a key, one you're not sure you want to turn. You hold the bone in your palm, its weight heavier than it should be. The symbols pulse faintly. Or maybe that's your imagination, but the whispers spike, a sudden wail that makes you drop it. The bone lands with a soft thud, and the soil seems to ripple, closing over it like a mouth. You notice a quirky regional detail. A single oyster shell, cracked and gray, lies nearby, half buried. Around here, folks, scatter shells in gardens to keep spirits from crossing thresholds. But this one looks like it failed its job. You don't touch it, but its presence makes the air feel tighter. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the bones in the orchard belong to a forgotten settler or something that was never human. You stand, wiping your gloves on your jeans, and force a laugh. What? No treasure map instead? You mutter, your voice thin. Another joke to keep your nerve. If this was an archaeology dig, it'd be rated cursed with a chance of doom. But the humor doesn't settle your racing pulse. The footprints resume a few feet away, leading toward a cluster of trees so dense their trunks nearly touch. Yilden, glancing at the disturbed soil. The bone is gone, swallowed by the earth, but its symbols linger in your mind, sharp and wrong. The whispers grow, a chorus now, their words fragmented but clear. Dig deeper. You shake your head, stepping away, and follow the prints because staying here feels like inviting the soil to claim you too. The ground is softer, almost liquid, and each step pulls at your boots, as if the orchard is reluctant to let you go. Your flashlight catches a flicker of movement to shadow, tall and thin, sliding between trees. You freeze, beam trained on the spot, but there's nothing, just bark and mud. The whispers pulse, and the soil beneath you shifts, a slow, deliberate heave that makes you stumble. Okay, ground, personal space, you whisper, half-joking, but your hands tremble as you grip the flashlight. The footprints lead into the tree cluster, where the air is so thick it's hard to breathe, and the symbols on the bones seem to burn behind your eyes. You push forward, the trees closing in, their bark warm under your touch. The footprints are deeper now, pressed into the mud like they were made by something heavier than a man. The orchard is no longer just watching its reaching, and the bone you touched is only the beginning of what lies beneath. The bone symbols linger in your mind, their twisted lines pulsing like a migraine as you follow the footprints deeper into the orchard. The trees are a suffocating wall now, their trunks so close you have to turn sideways to pass, their bark warm and slick under your palms. The ground is a quagmire, mud clinging to your boots with a wet, reluctant suck, and the air is thick with the stench of rot and something metallic, like blood. Your flashlight is nearly useless, its beam a faint glow that barely reaches the next tree. And the whispers have fused into a single, relentless drone, your name woven into its rhythm like a heartbeat. You stumble into a small clearing, the footprints pooling here in a chaotic jumble, as if their maker paused to dance or struggle. The trees encircle you, their branches low and tangled, and the ground thrums faintly, a vibration that travels up your legs and settles in your chest. It's subtle at first, like a distant engine, but it grows stronger, syncing with your pulse until you can tell where your heartbeat ends and the orchard S begins. A mainstream horror fact. In some folklore, sacred or cursed places pulse with a life of their own, a rhythm that binds the living to the land. This pulse feels like a trap, one that's already closing around you. You kneel, pressing a hand to the mud, and the vibration intensifies, warm and alive. The footprints are deeper here, their edges sharp, and you notice a quirky regional detail. A single crawfish claw, brittle and gray, half buried in the muck. Around here, folks say crawfish claws are tokens of protection, carried by those who work the land. But this one looks like it was torn off, its jagged end glistening. You don't touch it, but its presence makes the pulse feel personal, like the orchard is marking you. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the orchard S pulse is the earth, It's anger or the heartbeat of something buried long ago. You stand, wiping mud from your gloves, and force a laugh. What? No metronome for this creepy beat? You mutter, your voice swallowed by the drone. Another joke to steady your nerves. If this pulse had a Spotify track, it'd be titled Ominous Thrum in D minor. But the humor feels hollow, like whispering in a storm. The footprints resume, leading out of the clearing toward. A tree, unlike the others, its trunk is thicker, spark black and glossy, its branches sagging under an unseen weight. The pulse is stronger here, radiating from the tree, and the mud around its roots bubbles slightly, as if breathing. Your flashlight catches a faint glow in the tree's hollow, a flicker of light that doesn't match your beam. You step closer, heart pounding in time with the orchard's rhythm, and the whispers spike, a frantic chant. Stay, stay. The air is so thick it's hard to breathe, and the pulse pulls at you, urging you to kneel to touch the tree. Something moves in the shadows, a shape, low and quick, circling the clearing. You spin, flashlight slashing the dark, but the trees are still, their knots unblinking. The pulse surges, and for a moment, you swear the tree's bark ripples like skin over muscle. Okay, tree, let's not get too cozy, you whisper, half joking, but your hands shake as you back away. The footprints lead past the tree, deeper into the orchard, where the pulse is a living thing, wrapping around your heart. You follow, because standing still means surrendering to the rhythm. The trees close in again, their branches scraping your shoulders. And the pulse follows, a relentless beat that drowns out your thoughts. The orchard isn't just alive, it's hungry, and its heartbeat is calling you home. The orchard's pulse throbs in your chest, a relentless rhythm that shadows your heartbeat as you follow the footprints past the black trunk tree. The mud clings to your boots, each step a struggle against the ground's greedy pull, and the air is dense, laced with the sour reek of decay. The trees are a suffocating cage, their branches low and tangled, scraping your skin like brittle fingers. Your flashlight is a dying spark, its beam flickering, barely illuminating the path where the footprints grow deeper. Pressed into the muck as if their maker grew heavier with each step. The whispers are a constant chant now, your name a refrain that coils around you, tightening with every breath. You push through a curtain of branches, and the orchard opens slightly, the trees parting to reveal a stretch of ground where the mud is smoother, almost polished. The footprints pause here, circling a patch of earth that glints faintly, as if reflecting light that isn't there. You sweep your flashlight, and the beam catches twin flickers in the gloom-glowing orbs, like eyes hovering at the edge of your vision. They vanish when you focus, leaving only darkness, but their afterimage burns in your mind, yellow and unblinking. These feel like they're measuring you, weighing your right to be here. You step closer to the glinting patch, and the orbs flicker again, closer now, darting between trees. The air grows colder, your breath clouding in sharp bursts, and you notice a quirky regional detail. A small pile of pecans, cracked and empty, scattered near the footprints. Around here, folks say pecans are offerings to appease restless spirits, but these shells are hollow, their insides scraped clean. You don't touch them, but their presence makes the orbs feel hungrier, like they're waiting for more than nuts. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the glowing eyes in the orchard belong to lost souls or something that feeds on those who linger too long. You force a laugh, your voice brittle. What? No staring contest rules, you mutter, trying to shake the dread. Another joke to anchor yourself. If these eyes had a job, they'd be night security for the creepiest orchard ever. But the humor doesn't dull the prickle on your neck. The footprints resume, leading away from the glinting patch toward a cluster of trees where the branches are so low you will have to crawl. You hesitate, sweeping your flashlight, and the orbs appear again, 3 pairs now, hovering just beyond the beam. They don't blink, don't move, but you feel their gaze, heavy and cold, like a hand on your spine. The whispers surge, a frantic hiss. Look, away. Your heart lurches, and you stumble forward, nearly dropping the flashlight. Its beam stutters, and in the brief dark, the orbs seem to drift closer, their glow brighter, almost pulsing. You scramble toward the footprints, ducking under the branches, the bark scraping your back. The orbs follow, their light flickering in your peripheral vision, always vanishing when you turn. The ground is softer here, the mud sucking at your knees, and the whispers grow louder, a chorus of warnings or invitations, you can't tell. Okay, eyes, I'm not on the menu, you whisper, half joking, but your voice shakes. The footprints lead into a tunnel of trees, their trunks so close they form a corridor, and the orbs hover at its entrance, watching, waiting. You crawl forward, the mud, cold and slick, the pulse of the orchard thrumming through the earth. The orbs don't follow, but their gaze lingers, a weight that clings to your skin. The footprints are all you have now, guiding you deeper. Where the orchard's eyes are always watching, and the dark is never empty, the glowing orbs linger in your mind. Their unblinking stare a weight you can't shake as you crawl through the tunnel of trees. The footprints guiding you deeper into the orchard's heart. The mud is a cold, greedy thing clinging to your hands and knees, and the branches above scrape your back, their bark warm and pulsing like living flesh. Your flashlight is a faint whisper of light, its beam barely cutting the suffocating dark, and the whispers have grown sharper. A chorus that weaves your name with words you don't understand, their tone both pleading and possessive. The air is thick, heavy with the stench of rot, and a faint cloying sweetness that turns your stomach. The tunnel opens into a small, circular clearing, the trees parting to reveal a crumbling structure at its center, a forgotten shrine, stones weathered and moss-covered, half sunk into the mud. The footprints circle it, their outlines deep and chaotic, as if their maker lingered here, unable to leave. The shrine is small, no taller than your waist, its surface etched with symbols like those on the bone you unearthed, twisting and sharp. A single candle stump sits atop it, its wax blackened, as if burned by a flame that didn't belong. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, abandoned shrines often mark sites of failed rituals, places where the living trident failed to appease something beyond their control. This one feels like a wound, raw and open, radiating dread. You stand, mud dripping from your gloves, and notice a quirky regional detail. A rusted fishhook, tied with a scrap of red cloth, dangles from a nearby branch. Around here, folks say fishhooks are charms to catch wayward spirits. But this one looks bent, like it snagged something too big. You don't touch it, but its presence makes the shrine feel like a trap, baited and waiting. The whispers pulse louder now, and the symbols on the shrine seem to shimmer, their lines shifting when you blink. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the shrine was built to honor a lost child or to bind something that should never have been summoned. You force a laugh, your voice thin in the heavy air. What? No guest book for this creepy landmark? You mutter, trying to steady your nerves. Another joke to keep you grounded. If this shrine had a Yelp review, it'd be 1 star for ambience, 5 for existential terror. But the humor feels like shouting into a void. Step closer, and the ground trembles faintly, the orchard's pulse syncing with your heartbeat. The candle's wick sparks, a tiny, impossible flame that casts no light but warms the air. The footprints lead away from the shrine toward a gap in the trees where the dark is thicker, almost solid. You hesitate, your flashlight flickering, and the whispers spike, a frantic chant. Don't. Stay. Your chest tightens, and you glance at the shrine. The symbols pulse, and for a moment you swear the stones shift, forming a face hollow, eyeless mouth open in a silent scream. Something moves behind you, a shadow, tall and thin, slipping between trees. You spin, flashlight slashing the dark, but the clearing is empty, the fishhook swaying as if touched. Okay, shrine, I'm not signing up for your cult, you whisper, half joking, but your hands shake as you back away. The footprints beckon, their path clearer now, leading into the gap where the trees seem to lean forward, eager to swallow you. You follow because the shrine's presence is a pressure at your back, its flame a beacon you don't trust. The mud sucks at your boots, the whispers chant your name, and the orchard's pulse grows stronger, pulling you deeper. The shrine was a warning, a story carved in stone, and you're walking straight into its ending. The shrine's eyeless face lingers in your mind, its silent scream a weight that clings as you follow the footprints away from the clearing. The orchard closes in, trees pressing so tight their branches snag your jacket, their bark warm and slick under your palms. The mud is deeper, a greedy mire that pulls at your boots, and the air is thick with the cloying sweetness of rot, now spiked with something sharp, like ozone before a storm. Your flashlight is a ghost of itself, its beam flickering, barely illuminating the footprints, which are jagged now as if their maker was running. The whispers are a frenzied hum, your name a staccato beat woven into their chaos. And the orchard's pulse throbs in your chest, faster, urging you to move. You push through a tangle of branches and the ground shifts, a sudden lurch that makes you stumble. Behind you, a sound soft, deliberate, like footsteps matching yours. You freeze, flashlight slashing the dark, but the trees are still there, knots unblinking. The sound comes again, closer. A wet crunch in the mud, and your heart lurches. Shadows move in your peripheral vision, tall and thin, slipping between trunks, their forms dissolving when you turn. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, shadows that chase are often echoes of the dead, bound to places where they met their end. These feel alive, purposeful, hunting you through the orchard's maze. You spin, beam trembling, and catch a glimpse of shadow, humanoid but wrong, its limbs too long, darting behind a tree. The whispers spike, a wail. Run. Run. You don't think. Just move, following the footprints as the mud sucks at your feet. You notice a quirky regional detail. A small cornhusk doll half buried in the muck, its eyes sewn shut with red thread. Around here, folks say, such dolls are decoys, meant to distract malevolent spirits. But this one looks torn, its stuffing spilling like entrails. You don't stop to look, but its presence makes the shadows feel closer. Their steps louder, syncing with the orchard's pulse. There's a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the shadows in the orchard are ghosts of lost harvesters, or manifestations of the land's own malice. You force a laugh, breathless and brittle. What? No tag rules for this chase? You gasp, clutching the flashlight. Another joke to keep your nerve. If these shadows had a team name, it'd be a creepy track club. No finish line. But the humor is a thin shield against the panic clawing your chest. The footprints veer sharply, leading into a corridor of trees where the branches form a low, clawing arch. You duck, scrambling forward, the shadow's steps echoing behind you. Never close enough to see, but never far enough to ignore. Your flashlight stutters, and in its brief dark, you feel a breath on your neck, cold and deliberate. You lunge forward, the beam flickering back, and the footprints are deeper, frantic, as if their maker knew this chase. The trees seem to lean closer, their branches scraping your shoulders, and the whispers chant, faster, faster. Something grazes your arm, a shadow or a branch, you can't tell, and you stifle a cry, pushing through the arch. The shadow's steps falter, but their presence lingers, a weight that presses against your spine. Okay, shadows, I'm not your cardio buddy, you whisper, half joking, but your voice cracks. The footprints lead to a wider path, the mud less treacherous. But the orchard's pulse is a drumbeat now, shaking the ground, and the shadows are still there, silent but relentless. You keep moving because stopping means facing them. The trees thin slightly, their branches less oppressive, but the footprints are erratic, doubling back, as if their maker was trapped. The whispers urge you on, the shadows wait for you to falter. The orchard's pulse binds you to its rhythm, a hunter closing in on its prey. The shadow's pursuit lingers like a cold hand on your spine, their silent steps fading but never gone as you stumble along the erratic footprints. The orchard's pulse pounds in your chest, a relentless beat that shakes the mud beneath your boots. And the trees loom closer, their branches a jagged canopy that snags at your hair. The air is thick, heavy with the sickly sweet rot and anew. Tantalizing scent-ripe fruit, impossibly fresh in this barren place. Your flashlight is a frail flicker, its beam barely tracing the footprints, now shallow and hesitant, as if their maker paused here, caught by something irresistible. The whispers are a soft croon, your name a lullaby woven into their melody, urging you to stop, to look. Unnatural grove where the trees are stunted, their trunks bent like supplicants. At its center stands a single tree, its bark pale and smooth, almost glowing in the dark. From one low branch hangs a solitary apple, perfect and red, surface shimmering with an inner light that doesn't match your flashlight's beam. And the footprints circle it, their outlines deep, as if their maker knelt in reverence or fear. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, forbidden fruit often embodies temptation, a lure that binds the soul to a cursed place. This apple feels like a promise, one you're not sure you can refuse. You step closer, the mud soft and warm like flesh underfoot. The apple's glow pulses, and the whispers soften, a seductive murmur. Take, taste. You notice a quirky regional detail. A small ring of sweet gum balls, spiky and gray, encircles the tree's base. A local ward against trickster spirits. Around here, folks say sweet gum balls confuse malevolent forces. But these look crushed, their spines flattened, as if stepped on by something heavy. You don't touch them, but their ruin makes the apple's allure sharper, like a hook in your chest. You force a laugh, your voice hoarse. What? No organic label on this thing? You mutter, trying to break the spell. Another joke to anchor yourself. If this apple had a sales pitch, it'd be one bite, eternal regrets. But the humor feels like a whisper against the fruit's pull. Its glow warming your face, promising something you can't name. You reach out, fingers trembling, and the orchard's pulse surges, shaking the ground. The apple sways, its light flaring, and the whispers chant. Yours, yours. Your hand hovers inches from the fruit. When a shadow flickers at the grove's edge tall, too thin, its limbs bending wrong. You jerk back, flashlight slashing the dark, but it's gone, leaving only the apple's glow and the crushed sweet gum balls. The footprints lead away, past the tree, their path frantic, as if their maker fled from what they almost took. You step back, heart thudding, and the whispers wail, a sudden anguished cry that makes you flinch. "'Kay, Apple, I'm on a no-curse diet," you whisper, half joking, but your mouth is dry. The fruit's hum lingers, a siren's call, but you follow the footprints, forcing your eyes away. The trees close in again, their branches clawing, and the orchard's pulse slows, disappointed but not defeated. The apple's glow fades behind you, but its scent clings, sweet and wrong. And the shadows are closer now, their presence a weight that trails you into the dark. The apple's sweet scent clings to you, a ghostly lure that fades, but never vanishes as you follow the frantic footprints away from the glowing tree. The orchard's pulse is a steady throb now, vibrating through the mud that sucks at your boots. And the trees are a suffocating wall, their branches knotted into a ceiling that blocks all trace of sky. Your flashlight is nearly dead, its beam a faint stutter, barely illuminating the footprints, which are erratic, doubling back as if their maker was desperate to escape. The whispers have shifted, no longer a chant, but a cacophony of voices. Distinct and human, pleading, crying, calling your name with a familiarity that chills your blood. The air is heavy, thick with rot and the sharp tang of fear. You push through a tangle of branches, and the orchard opens slightly, the trees parting to reveal a hollow where the ground dips into a shallow basin. The footprints converge here, a chaotic swirl, as if their maker collapsed or fought. The air shimmers faintly, like heat rising from pavement. And the voices grow louder, overlapping in a chorus of despair. Help. Don't leave. Stay. Faces flicker in the dark, translucent, half-formed, their eyes wide with terror or longing. They vanish when you focus, but their voices linger, tugging at your heart. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, spectral voices often belong to souls trapped by unfinished business, bound to the place of their suffering. These feel like they're reaching for you, desperate to be heard. You step into the basin, and the mud is warmer, almost liquid, rippling under your weight. You notice a quirky regional detail. A single alligator tooth, yellowed and cracked, lies at the basin's edge, tied with a loop of twine. Round here, folks say alligator teeth are talismans, carried to ward off vengeful spirits. But this one looks chewed, its edges jagged. You don't touch it, but its presence makes the voices feel sharper, like they're clawing at your mind. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the voices in the orchard are echoes of lost harvesters or illusions crafted by something that feeds on hope. You force a laugh, your voice trembling. What? No choir practice for ghosts? You mutter, trying to shake the dread. Another joke to steady yourself. If these voices had a band, they'd be the haunting harmonies, no encore. But the humor is a frail shield against the weight of their pleas. The footprints lead out of the basin toward a narrow gap between trees where the dark is thicker, almost alive. You hesitate, the voice is surging. Don't go, you're one of us. Your chest tightens, and you sweep your flashlight, its beam catching a flicker of face, pale and eyeless, hovering inches from yours. Stumble back, heart pounding, and the face dissolves, but the voices wail. A sound that rakes your nerves. The orchard's pulse quickens, shaking the ground. And the mud seems to reach for you, its warmth too much like a living thing. Something moves at the basin's edge of shadow, low and quick, circling like a predator. You spin, flashlight stuttering, but the trees are still there, not staring. Okay, voices, I'm not auditioning, you whisper, half joking, but your hands shake as you grip the flashlight. The footprints are fainter now, leading into the gap, and you follow because staying means drowning in the voices' grief. The trees close in, their branches scraping, and the voices follow, softer but relentless, begging you to join them. Push forward, the mud clinging, the pulse pounding, and the voices weave your name into their lament, a siren's call to stay forever. The orchard isn't just haunted, it's a grave, and its lost souls want you to lie with them. The voices of the lost cling to you, their desperate pleas fading to a mournful hum as you force yourself through the narrow gap, following the faint footprints. The orchard is a living cage now, its trees so tightly woven their branches form a tunnel, their bark pulsing faintly under your touch. The mud is a warm, greedy thing, sucking at your boots, and the air is suffocating, thick with the stench of rot, and the apple's lingering sweetness now sour and wrong. Your flashlight is dead, its last flicker swallowed by the dark, leaving you to navigate by the dim glow of the footprints, which shimmer like embers in the muck. The whispers are a single voice now, low and commanding, your name a chain that pulls you deeper. The orchard's pulse is a thunderous beat shaking the ground, sinking with your heart until you can't tell where you end and it begins. The tunnel opens into a vast clearing, the heart of the orchard, where a single tree towers, its trunk black and twisted, its branches sprawling like veins across the sky. The footprints end here, pooling around its roots, which rise in the mud like living things. The tree pulses, its bark rippling with each beat, and a faint light emanates from its hollow, a sickly green glow that casts no shadows. The air is alive, charged with a dread so thick it presses against your chest. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, a cursed tree often serves as the anchor for a place's malevolence, its roots drinking the suffering of those who trespass. This tree feels like the orchard's soul, and it's awake. You step closer, the mud warm and liquid, and notice a quirky regional detail. A single crab claw, pale and cracked, lies at the tree's base, tied with a loop of black thread. Around here, folks say crab claws are wards against ancient evils, but this one is hollow, its shell crumbling like ash. You don't touch it, but its presence makes the tree's pulse feel hungrier, like it's drawing you in. The whispers are a command now, Neil. Join. The trees glow, pulses, and the roots shift, curling toward you like fingers. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the tree is a natural horror or a vessel for something that came before the orchard. You force a laugh, your voice a rasp. What? No arborist for this nightmare, you mutter, clinging to sanity. Another joke to keep your nerve. If this tree had a dating profile, it'd list love's long walks and soul-snatching. But the humor is a whisper against the tree's power, its pulse drowning your thoughts. You try to step back, but the mud holds you, and the roots creep closer, their tips grazing your boots. The tree's hollow flares, and you see shapes within faces, eyeless and screaming, the lost souls you heard, trapped in its light. The whispers roar, your name a demand, and the shadows from before emerge. Tall and wrong, circling the clearing, their limbs bending like reeds. You stumble, heart pounding, and the tree's roots tighten, pulling you down. Okay, tree, I'm not plant food, you gasp, half joking, but your voice breaks. The footprints are gone, swallowed by the mud, and the path behind you is lost. The tree is a solid wall. The orchard's heart beats for you, its roots and shadows closing in. And the whispers promise eternity if you just give in. You're trapped, and the tree knows you're its own. The twisted tree's pulse is a living force, its roots coiling around your boots, holding you in the orchard's heart as the shadows circle closer, their forms flickering like smoke. The mud is a warm, pulsing mass, clinging to your legs. And the air is a suffocating weight, thick with the stench of rot and the trees' sickly green glow. The whispers are a single, relentless voice now, your name a command that burrows into your mind, urging you to kneel, to surrender. The tree's hollow pulses, the eyeless faces within its light screaming silently, their mouths stretched in eternal agony. Your flashlight is gone, lost in the mud, and the footprints have vanished, leaving you alone with the orchard's will. The path behind you is gone, the trees fused into a seamless wall, their branches a cage that tightens with each breath. You pull against the roots, but they're strong, their grip tightening like veins around a heart. The shadows draw nearer, their limbs bending wrong, their faces featureless, yet somehow watching. The orchard's pulse shakes the ground, sinking with your heartbeat, and the mud ripples, rising to your knees, warm and alive. A mainstream horror fact. In folklore, cursed lands often trap intruders, reshaping themselves to prevent escape, binding the living to their fate. This orchard isn't just a place, it's a predator, and you're its prey, caught in its final embrace. You twist, searching for a gap. Notice a quirky regional detail, a single egret feather, gray and tattered, caught in a root's coil, its tip stained red. Around here, folks say egret feathers are signs of safe passage carried by those who navigate haunted grounds. But this one looks like it was torn from its owner. You don't reach for it, but its presence makes the roots feel crueler, like they've claimed others before you. The whispers chant, "Stay forever," and the shadows hum, their forms blurring into the tree's glow. There is a debate among the townsfolk. Locals still argue whether the orchard traps its victims by chance or by design, a living maze crafted to feed its heart. You force a laugh, a desperate rasp. What, no exit sign for this trap? You choke, clinging to reason, another joke to defy the dread. If this orchard had a brochure, it'd promise scenic views and eternal residency. But the humor is a fading spark, drowned by the pulse that shakes your bones. You wrench one foot free, the mud sucking greedily, and lunge for the nearest tree, hoping to climb, to break through. The bark is warm, pulsing, and it shifts under your hands, sealing the gaps as you touch them. The roots tighten, pulling you back, and the shadows close in, their touch cold, like frost on your skin. The tree's hollow flares, and the faces within reach out, their spectral hands brushing your mind, begging you to join them. You scream, but the sound is swallowed, the orchard drinking it like water. The whispers roar. Hours.
Yes.
And the mud rises, warm and thick, to your thighs. You thrash, but the roots are relentless, the shadows pressing closer, their forms merging with the tree's glow. The pulse is deafening, your heartbeat lost in its rhythm. And the orchard's heart claims you, its roots curling like a lover's embrace. "Okay, orchard, you win," you whisper, half joking, but your voice is gone, your strength fading. The world narrows to the tree's glow, the shadows touch, and the whispers promise of rest. There's no way out, and the orchard's heart beats on with you inside it. The pulse slows, a gentle throb now, as the orchard settles, its hunger sated. You're still here, in a way, though the mud is quiet, the roots soft, cradling you like a child. The shadows have faded, their forms dissolving into the dark, and the tree's glow dims, a faint ember in the hollow. The whispers are a lullaby, soft and wordless, wrapping you in a strange peace. The air is lighter, the rot less sharp, and the orchard feels almost tender, its pulse a soothing rhythm that hums in your bones. You're part of it now, woven into its roots, your story another thread in its endless tale. Close your eyes if you still can, and let the orchard's hum carry you. The trees stand silent, their branches swaying in a breeze that doesn't touch you. And the frost returns, dusting the mud with a delicate sheen. You're safe here, in the heart of the right side, where no one harvests, where no one leaves. Yes. The world beyond is distant, a memory you don't need. Rest now. Let the whispers fade, and sink into the orchard's embrace, where the dark is soft, the pulse eternal, and the shadows keep their secrets.